Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Think Big podcast. We're on episode 58. We've been doing this for 58 straight weeks. I'm excited about tonight. We're going to be having a special guest come on. But before we jump into it, guys, I want to make sure that you know I appreciate every last one of you for showing up. People have been watching the replays. People have been hitting me up in my DMs, tagging me on YouTube, tagging me on Instagram, tagging me on Facebook. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate the support. It really means the absolute world to me. It means the world to Sam, to Alejandro, to Daryl. You guys are helping to grow this podcast and to grow this platform. So seriously, thank you for the support. Thank you for sharing these episodes with your. This is a guy that gets me inspired. Like, you guys think I'm the mindset dude, but when I need to start thinking bigger, when I need to start going bigger, when I need to expand my vision on what is possible, what we're capable of, there's really only one person I pick up the phone and call, and that's Andrew Linder. And this dude, I just had the honor, the privilege of hanging out with him in DC this past weekend, where this man just ticked off the biggest accomplishment to date for him, which was crossing over 100 miles on feet in a single run, 28 plus hours of nonstop moving. We had rain, we had sun, we had darkness, we had light, we had cold weather. I mean, it was just insane. So tonight we're going to be talking about the 100 miler. We're going to be talking about how he's done difficult things in his life and in his business. We're going to be talking about what he's got planned for the future. We're just going to be having a straight up conversation. So I'm going to bring Andrew up because, quite frankly, I want to hang out and talk to him. Yo,
Yo,
Drewski.
what's going
Yo,
on, Marlon?
what up, bro? How you feeling, dog?
Dude, honestly, today's better than yesterday. It's a slow progress. Feet still pretty swollen, but we're able to move up and down the stairs without any assistance, so we're doing all right, man.
Bro, I love it. Yo, yesterday when I saw your IG story of you getting out of the ice plunge and you had Eric helping you out, bro, absolutely love that, man. So I mean, what are we right now? We're 48 hours, right? 48 hours outside of you having completed your first 100-mile race, which we're going to be talking details. I want to know about that. I mean, I got to be there with you on that, but I want to open up for everyone. But before we get into that 100-miler, right? I'm so freaking curious, right? Like, were you always a runner? Did you grow up just being like this dude that was like, yeah, I just run long distances and like this is just something that's been innate to you?
No, absolutely not, man. I mean, I come from a competitive family, and growing up, we played sports. So I was played football, I ended up playing college football. I never ran further than a mile before up until 2019. And then in 2019, I got done playing football, and I was getting ready to leave for the police academy. And my dad we were just talking about Goggins, and he was like, "You won't run a marathon." And I signed up for one that day. And then, like 9 weeks, I think it was 9 weeks later, I went out and completed my first marathon. Very minimal training. I just wanted to go out and do it, and it was brutal. It was brutal because my body was destroyed after with no training, just showing up and doing it. But that kind of sparked this whole entire thing.
Dang, bro. So really it just your pops introduced you to Goggins. You found out like, all right, there's this like kind of nutcase out there that's just doing difficult things. And you got humbled. It sounded like you got humbled by that first marathon.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't even know a marathon was 26 miles. And then I'm listening to Goggins run a 100-mile race. He did the Moab 240. I'm like, wow, this is insane. And then that kind of like made my mind think, wow, okay, there's so many more barriers to break here, right? Rather than just lifting weights and running sprints, because that's really all I did growing up playing football. You didn't run long distances. And yeah, man. So I started doing some research, and I remember going out for some of my runs and walking home. I remember was supposed to run a half marathon and like trying to get prepped for the marathon, and I made it 7.5 miles. I walked the rest of the way home, and I was just like, this is gonna be a brutal day. It was on November 10th, 2019. I ran my first marathon, and I was just like, this is gonna be brutal. But yeah, the training sessions leading up to it, not knowing much, I didn't do any research. I just went out there, man. Was just like, I'm doing this my way, my style, and it definitely humbled me.
Yo, like let's talk about that too a little bit, right? Because there's that we like start to build up an ego, right? Like as athletes, we start getting into our heads like I could do anything I want. But I like what you said, right? You try doing it your way, your style, and it beat you down. So what changed? Because again, we're talking about 2019 Andrew Linder trying to run his first marathon, being absolutely defeated by it, to 2 days ago, you just crossed the line on a 100-mile race. Like, what started to shift? And I know the answer, but I want other people to hear because I want to give everyone the context too. Andrew to me is one of the most disciplined human beings on planet freaking Earth. Like Alejandro and Andrew, two of the most disciplined humans I know. Your work ethic is unmatched. So I want to know, like, what was that process and that journey and that transition like?
Yeah, well, I think when I ran that first marathon, it was really just an ego thing. It was my dad
Hmm.
saying I wouldn't do it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it. And then as the process of getting into running and going down this mental journey, I got back into running about 13 or 14 months ago. So I did run that marathon, and then I pretty much took a break. I never really ran more than a 5K until about 13 months ago. That's when we met each other. But I started getting back into it because of the mental side of it, and working in law enforcement and wanting to be better mentally every day, and not just like strong in the gym, but how can I put myself in tough situations and doing these, signing up for hard races, signing up for hard workouts. Those were the things that I wanted to do. So 2019 Lynn, man, 2019 Drew, he was just the ego maniac, just wanted to prove my dad that I could do something. But now it's truly a passion to find in a better version of myself.
Yep. Dude, and you've been on that grind nonstop since. So that first marathon humbles you. What was the second marathon? It wasn't Whiskey Road, that second marathon, right?
No, that was this my second marathon was Whiskey Row. You
Oh my God. So
Yeah.
your second marathon was the fourth toughest marathon in the nation.
Yes.
And you finished fourth. Like you came in, and that wasn't even necessarily your goal. Your goal was just to go out there and perform as best you could.
As
And
best
so
I
all
could,
your
that's it.
preparation leading up to that was really just about making you the best version of you.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't go into it looking at previous times or anything like that. And Whiskey Row is, like you said, it's the fourth hardest marathon in the country. There's really nothing on the East Coast that can mimic that trail, right?
Ah,
Like the elevation and everything. So I was just running, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be in the best shape that I can to go out there and do it. And it ended up showing. Whether I came in fourth or 44th, it was about me putting in the work beforehand, knowing that I would go out there and give it my all, and also put the best performance that Andrew Linder could put up, and that's what I did on that day.
bro, I loved it, man, and it was intense to watch your training regimen for it. Also, shout out to Kirk Anderson. He says his dad ran Whiskey Row every year, and he's been a runner his whole life. Me and Kirk were actually talking about that a little while ago. So, what I think is interesting is you started training me for my first marathon, which you still train me right now. You're the reason like I'm in phenomenal shape, the best shape I've ever been in my life, quite frankly. And what I started to discover was during the training process how mental this entire game was. The waking up, knowing that, hey, today I got 10 miles to run, I got 15 miles to run, I got an 8 mile run, I got sprints, I've got 45 minutes to be out there. And I had to start compartmentalizing my life in order to make time for this. And easy for me to do. I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. I can make my own schedule whenever I want. You, on the other hand, you're an entrepreneur, you're an athlete, and you also hold down a full-time job. And you and I were talking about this in DC. How are you making the time to do the training? Because when you're training for marathon, when you're training for ultra marathons, when you're training for some of the things that you've got on your schedule, we're talking about hours of needing to be in the gym. Like, where are you getting the time to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer for you is you got to make time for things that are important to you, right? Like that's why on my hat it says make time for it, because I tell anybody that when they ask me that question, if I told you there was going to be $1 million in the gym tomorrow, you would be there, you know? And
Facts.
it's like, what's more important to you? And for everything that I have going on, and we spoke about this a little bit, but me working out and me training, it's a non-negotiable for me having a successful day. So me getting out there, me getting my miles in, do I want to do it every day? No. But I know that those training sessions are going to pay dividends, and they're just cookies added to the cookie jar, especially the days that I don't want to do it, especially on the long runs. And I'll be able to pull from that cookie jar, whenever I need to, and I definitely needed to this weekend.
Yo, so let's talk about that. Let's get into this race, man, because this weekend was, I don't think a lot of people get to experience what we got to experience this past weekend, which is what, from my point of view, what I saw was men and women, especially you, but like in general, men and women who came out to an event to literally suffer, to put themselves through actual hell for the sake of getting better, for the sake of breaking through limitations. And I mean, it's a beautiful process because going into it, right? Like when you sign up for a 100-mile race, there's no one that, I don't think there's anyone that signs up thinking like, oh yeah, this is going to be easy. This is like yeah, like I've been training all year for this. This is just going to be good. Like, at some point, no matter who you are, there will be a breaking down physically. There will be a breaking down mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So, like, let's talk through this. This was your first race, 100 miles. What did you discover about yourself? Like, what did you realize out there?
This is a lot to unpack here, man. And I mean, you saw me through it, right? Running 40 miles with me, and thank you again for that. But this was the biggest like mental breakthrough that I had of just realizing like the things that like truly are important, and honestly more so the things that like aren't important. I think we waste so much time focusing on things that like don't matter, people's opinions that like aren't gonna matter to us, and just like those little small things, Marlon, and being out there in the middle of the night, 70 miles in, it's pissing rain down, like just calming down. You're freezing cold, and you don't want to run anymore, and you really start thinking about like the things that truly matter to you. And to me, man, every time, just to put it in perspective for people, when Marlon was running with me, the other pacer that I had was my friend DJ. Their biggest sense of motivation to me was to get back to the boys, right? I had my team, the RPM crew. We're at Camp Tufi, one of the aid stations, and it was like, Lynn, we just got to get to Tufi. And I'm telling you, like, that got me through it. And like, just to have amazing people supporting you that you can just feed off their energy. Like I put in my post, man, you can, if you want to go fast, right, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, man. Build a team that can get you through it and pull you out of the dirt. And that's really the biggest thing that I learned out of this whole entire thing.
Bro, I absolutely love that you say that. And also, looks like Sam is backstage, so he might be hopping up soon. But the biggest thing, bro, like, is I got to see that firsthand. The team that was put together, that crew. So for people that have never run a big race, like an ultra marathon, anything like this, what you do is, it's not, and Drew, you kept reminding me of this, right? Like, it's not a single man running this, right? Like, it's not you by yourself. You kept telling that to us all the time. Like, guys, like, this is not Andrew running 100 miles. This is the crew. The crew crossed that finish line together. And so you put together a team of absolute studs. I mean, Brandon, Nick, Eric, Price, like DJ, myself, like just phenomenal humans coming together to get this race done. And what was so fascinating to me was every time we got to one of those aid stations. So for people listening, the aid stations were stationed out every about 8 miles, every 8 miles or so, 6 to 8 miles, you
Having
finally got to see
flashbacks.
a friendly face. And in between those 8 miles, I mean, you're literally talking about like being in the woods, going uphill, downhill, mud, going over rocks, going through water. Like, the terrain was just terrible. And we're talking like one lane type terrain as well. So you're out there by yourself. Those first 40 miles, you were absolutely alone. And when you got to see a friendly face, when you finally made it to a camp and you got to see that your people were there to support you, to check in. Yo, are you eating? Do you have liquids in you? Take this, change his shoes, get like it felt like being in NASCAR watching a car pull into the pit stop, like the way they were taking care of you, treating the body, and then putting you back on your feet and pushing you back out and just telling you that, yo, we will be here for you for the next round. I mean, like, bro, absolutely amazing. What up, Sam?
Guys, I am so sorry. We just had a lot of technical issues today, but I don't want to interrupt. You guys keep going because this is like the way that you described that scene, 40 miles like in the forest, alone, rain coming down. Like, damn, that just sounds like a scene out of like Lone Survivor or something. It's so good. So keep going, keep going. I'm just gonna listen.
Bro, so it was fire. And so let me ask you this: as you were putting your team together, because your team really, there are points out there, Andrew, where I never doubted that you were going to finish this run. Like I knew you were going to finish this race. However, I saw just how critical it was that you had the right people out there, that you actually had prepared to put the right people out there. So when you were preparing and you were thinking about like, I'm going to go and do this thing I've never done before, I'm going to go tackle this ridiculously difficult task. What was your thought process with the people you picked? Because, for example, you had me come out, and my job was to pace you, which for people that don't know what pacing means, it means I was out there to run with him, to keep him moving at a certain speed, to keep him locked in at a certain time. I'm not the fastest runner, Andrew knows. I'm not the highest endurance athlete that Andrew knows. Like, he knows world-class runners, world-class athletes, yet you picked me in along with the other guys on the crew. What was your thought process when you were forming your dream team?
Yeah, the biggest thing, and I'm glad you alluded to that, zero egos. I needed zero egos to be there, right? You know, to be in the woods and you're away from your, everyone's up for 30 hours. Like, I'm up for 30 hours, but everyone else is up for 30 hours, right? I'm coming into the aid station. I have all grown men with me. Dante Price is taking my clothes off, drying me off, and putting warm clothes on. Do you, like, if he had an ego, do you think he would have done that? You know what I'm saying? I have people who, are, like you said, are a lot faster than you, a lot faster than DJ. But I needed guys who were going to be able to pull me out of the dirt like you guys did in those moments. You know, like you saw me at my most vulnerable position ever in my life, those final 6 miles, right? I needed someone that I could trust that could carry me through that moment because I knew I was going to reach somewhere near there. I went way past where I thought I was going to go, and I knew I picked the right people. And dude, like, even like Vlay, having the right camera guy, like, he'll never get enough credit because he's never going to be in all the photos. He's never going to be in the videos because he's the guy taking all the videos. But, dude, he's out there in the freezing rain doing all this stuff. He's not sleeping. He's not eating all the food he wants to eat, right? So, yes, I'm the guy running, but I don't get the job done if it's not for everyone. And that's like when me and Brandon talk about it. That's my best friend. We go over like, hey man, who are we gonna put together that we can make sure all this stuff works? Because everyone's tired, everyone's going through it. So if you have a bunch of egos, everyone's just clashing heads. It's never gonna work. So that was the biggest thing, man, and that's how I assembled the team.
Dude, I love that because it's the same thought process too, even like when we're in business, right? And these guys that you did, like, what's cool about this is like you just did one of the toughest things physically, but you also do business with these guys as well. And it's the same thought process that comes into putting that team together. Like, Andrew, I'm not kidding you. When I came home, I started on the plane ride home yesterday. I was reevaluating all of the friendships that I have in my life, all of the people that I do any sort of business collaborations with, any partnerships with. And I just started thinking, like, if the team does not look like the sort of team that I had the freaking privilege of being a part of this weekend, I don't want it. That team's not worth anything to me. Because seeing the way, like, Sam, if you could have been there, you would have seen just the most amazing things. We're talking 5 different dudes who are all pointed in the same direction because of one man's vision, one man's dream, which was so large that all of us could find space inside of it to come together on a project. And what's cool is it was a test run for what you got coming in 2024, which, like, what do you got? Can you share what's happening in 2024 that this was essentially a precursor? This was the warm up to.
Yeah, I mean, and that was it, right? It was a great training session, ideally for what we have in 2024. In 2024, we're starting March 1st. We're going to be going pier to park from Santa Monica Pier to Central Park, New York City, over 3,100 miles with a 15-pound weighted vest, doing something no one's ever done before, raising money for sex trafficking. So that's the big one. This 100-miler was definitely a test run, but it was a great training session for the big day.
Bro, pair to park. So literally on foot
On
from
foot,
Santa Monica,
Santa
right, which
Monica.
is south from the fields of Fresno, in which Sam hails, all the way out to Central Park, which is where I used to go and hang out. Like, this is nuts. And what's crazy about this, right? Like, and here's the thing I want to highlight is you said with a weighted vest, right? I'm so curious. Why the weighted vest? Well, I know the answer now, but I want other people to know the answer to this.
Because so roughly 300, like 320 people have ran across the country, but no one has done it with a weighted vest. So we're gonna do that, do something that no one's done before, get more eyeballs on it, and we're doing it to raise money. I'm doing it for sex trafficking, something I'm really passionate about. And when you do something that no one else has ever done before, more people will look at it, more eyes will get on it, and more eyes will be at the cause.
Bro, I freaking love that. And that's right up there with even like something Sam is very actively building his business to be able to go and really prevent the modern day slavery, right? To really go and eradicate it from this planet, which I believe you two have even had a conversation on that in the past. I don't know if you guys ever got to connect about that in the past, but I love that. So as you're gearing up to do this run across America, right? What does that look like from a standpoint? Because you're still, here's the interesting thing about Andrew, right? Everyone, like, you hear these sort of things and you think, right? Because someone even commented, like, well, yeah, he doesn't have kids, right? As in, like, yeah, he's, look at him. He's a young guy. He's probably sitting on the couch doing nothing but like working out and drinking protein shakes all day. It's like he's got nothing but time. But I want to, like, remind people you work a full time W 2. And not only do you work full time like W 2, like, you have a decently stressful job. Are you comfortable like sharing with people like what your job is?
Yeah, it's not an
Yeah.
easy one.
Yeah, I work in law enforcement in DC. I work for U.S. Capitol Police, and yeah, so I'll be to be able to pull this off, to do what I want to do. I'll be working 7 days a week at the U.S. Capitol Police to then go ahead and be able to take the time to go run across the country, which should take around 78 days to do so. Um, so, like I said, I mean, you have to make time for it, and that's the biggest thing. So we'll find time to train, we'll find time to work, and we'll find time to get it done.
Bro, I freaking love that, man. And so, even like speaking about the finding time, because again, people want to do, and like you and I, again, we had this conversation in the car the other day. There are people like, hey, but Andrew, like, I want to run a marathon. I want to push myself physically. I want to do something for a cause. But yo, Andrew, I don't have the time, man. Like, I know you say find the time, but like, I just don't have the time. Like, can we talk about how insane? I'm gonna, because Andrew might not say this unless I say it, right? Like, this man is literally working basically nonstop, like just piling on the hours on work, piling on the weekend hours, like just working nonstop in order to, instead of get like the bonus time where people like typically trade in their extra time for more cash, he's literally racking up all the hours working through the weekends in order to be able to take time off to put towards training, to put towards the actual running of the event. And so it's exactly what he's saying. When you want something bad enough, you will figure out how to make it work. And I'm curious, like, for people listening, how many of y'all have ever wanted something so bad that you were literally willing to do whatever you needed to do to get it done? Because it's not just about wanting it bad enough. And me, this is where like I really connected with Drew. It's like, it's not about wanting things bad enough that you just, hey, I want it, I'm going to show up on race day. Right? Anybody could show up to the marathon on race day. Like, there's a lot of people that showed up to this race this past weekend. Out of, I believe, like 89 people signed up, and about 30 something dropped out, like did not finish.
Yeah, 41 didn't finish.
41. So almost half, about half, more than half. Half the people did not finish this race because anybody can just show up and sign up. Anyone could raise their hand and say, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an athlete, I'm a marathon runner. But to actually put in the work day to day, to actually make the time to wake up early in the morning, to stay up late at night, to sneak in an exercise, to sneak in the phone calls, to do whatever you need to do in the in-betweens, to give up the useless behaviors, to give up the sitting and scrolling on social media, doing nothing, to be proactive, to intentionally put together a social group, a friend group, a team of people to help you accomplish that goal. That's a discipline and that's a sacrifice, right? Because when you're doing those things, let's talk about what you can't do. Right? You're not able to go out and enjoy your 20s in a bar right now. You can't go to clubs. You can't go out drinking all night with your friends. You got to say no to bachelor parties, right? You can't stay up all night watching the game. You can't stay up all night watching movies. You can't watch TV, new TV shows. Like those are things that those 2, 3, 4 hours, that's you have to go out and you got to go run. In the middle of the winter, you got to put on your running shoes. You got to go to work and work through those hours, 16, 18-hour shifts, and then show up again the next day. Like, this is why Andrew is one of my favorite people. This is the level of discipline that y'all need to cultivate. And Drew, I want to share this with people, right? Like, is the fact that my discipline has increased as a result of befriending you, of hanging out with you, of like straight up like consuming your content, consuming your message, talking to you regularly, and seeing how you consistently show up to your life. My level of discipline has improved.
Thank you, brother.
Bro, thank you for that.
I think everything that you just said about me, I truly do appreciate. And I think for people listening, though, don't look at me as like, oh, well, if I'm not doing all these things, I'm not doing something, right? Like, take the small wins. Right? Like I didn't just wake up and run 100 miles. Like I had goals earlier this year that led me to be able to run 100 miles this past weekend, right? Like I did races before just to be able to run 100 miles. So don't look at like, oh, if I'm not doing something epic every single weekend, you got to find small wins, like it was really hard for me to move today, but I made it to the gym. And I sat in the sauna. That's a win for me. You don't have to do this epic stuff every single day, but do stuff that makes you feel good. Do some things that you might not want to do, and that'll make the bigger wins come a lot easier. Just keep stacking the small ones though first.
Yo, I freaking love that. I'm gonna pass the mic over because like if I don't I'll just keep talking.
I mean, I want to hit on this. So I think his name was Vince Lombardi. He had a saying. He was a college football coach, and my college tennis coach basically had echoed the same thing. And the idea was that everyone wanted to win, but winning isn't on game day. Winning is, and he had this saying. Lombardi would always say, "Winning is a habit. You don't win on the day of. You actually win 3 months prior." You win 3 months prior by showing up to the 6 a.m. weights, the 7 a.m. conditioning session. You win by showing up, like for collegiate athletes. We also won by showing up to class and make sure our grades weren't shit, so we didn't get put on academic probation. And then so I want to actually highlight something that's really important here. And it goes on. One, thank you for all the service that you've been doing, for your country in law enforcement, especially. I mean, it's phenomenal. But it's not even just winning about practicing. It's not even like about going into like you're winning across the board. It's not just the sauna and the fitness and the diet and the recovery. It's not even all that. You showing up and serving the country even more right now is you winning every single day. You making sure that you have not forsaken your obligation to the service that you are doing for the purposes of a greater mission, potentially a greater mission with this human trafficking, mission that you're fighting for. That's even bigger to me. I see people who embark on massive missions to make massive headlines. And what ends up happening is everything else freaking falls by the wayside, right? Everything else, family, relationships, friends, all other commitments, and they get away with it. Why? Because this grand mission is so much grander that everything else can fall by the wayside. So the fact that you are chasing something huge, but you're still committed to yourself, you're committed to your friends, you're committed to show up for them, you're committed to your job the way that you are, putting in more hours now than you're required to. Because I'm sure you could probably take the PTO and just like dip for the amount of time that you need, but you're not. That is winning. As a holistic approach, that is winning. And I can imagine that shit ain't easy at all. At all. So I actually do want to commend you on that, man. It's so funny. Marlon and I have been traveling together quite a bit, especially last like 5-6 months. And every time I hear about, the run across America, I'm finally glad that, we were able to say it out to the world, which is cool. And I'm always just like, God dang, that just sounds like this unsurmountable task. And then I found out it was going to be with a weighted vest on. And I was like, it got more unsurmountable. And so I actually want to commend you, man, for, and how old are you? You're
just turned 27.
You're Jesus Christ. Okay. So see, look at that. That is so phenomenal to not just have the discipline, it's the discipline to do it, the discipline to chase the mission, but also the discipline to not forsake everything else. To me, that's huge. And why? Because in a time, you and I connected about this because I used to work for the federal government. At a time when I was a collegiate athlete, when I was working for the government, I actually allowed myself to forsake all other obligations because I had convinced myself that what I was doing in work or on the team was more important. You know what ended up happening? I lost so many important relationships. And what was unfortunate is that I'd convinced myself that I was in the right. And so I look at you not letting anything fall by the wayside, man. That is at 27 years old, to have the discipline, but also the maturity to do that is outstanding. So I have to commend you on that. Another thing that I really just want to kind of highlight, man, is I don't know why you chose to run across America, specifically that act. That is a phenomenal act. But I do want to hit on this. I want people to understand why this is important, right? So Marlon knows this. I've been in contact quite a bit with a phenomenal human being named Tim Ballard. He's known from Sound of Freedom. He does a lot of things for combating human trafficking. Bro, why is that specifically the charge that you want to push? Why is that the mission that you want to raise awareness for?
Yeah, so well, first off, Sam, thanks for everything that you said and about me. I really appreciate it. And with the sex trafficking, that's why I always got into law enforcement. At like a young age, I wanted to get into law enforcement, and my dad and my parents were kind of open, like, who are the worst people on the planet? And child molesters and sex traffickers. And that's just like in my house, those are the worst people on the planet. And I just wanted to make an impact. And I always wanted to take that step to like, let me go after the worst people. And in this like journey of getting into law enforcement, with the working in the federal government, like earning your stripes and doing that whole thing, that was always my like journey. That was always like my goal to go ahead and do. And so during the time of like applying for different jobs to go after the sex traffickers and stuff like that, to get kind of in that field, I just came up with, doing these hard mental tasks, like these running and these challenges. Then I thought about, what could I do that's just undeniable, that could bring so much awareness to something? Because like Sam, I could turn down a job in the federal government. Someone else will go take it, right? There always will be someone to take the job. But how many people are willing to go ahead and sacrifice 3 months of their life, train as hard that I'm going to train, to then go do something to raise awareness for this thing and run across America and do something that no one's ever done before? Well, no one's ever done it, so I'll say no one, but until me. And that's kind of why I was like, let me go do this.
Dude, that is so good. And you're absolutely right. The federal government will 100%, by the time you leave the building, the new boot will be in. I want to ask this, man. You've done this phenomenal thing, right? Where you've got this mission, and like Marlon mentioned, like, human trafficking is the most important thing for me. I actually got into federal government thinking that I want to do counterterrorism. When you see the realities of counterterrorism, human trafficking is very often the financial sector that allows them to do all the other shit they want to do.
Right.
And so the fact that you're fighting that mission still in your own way is amazing. But I want to hit on this. You've got the ability to fight human traffickers as an officer, right? Doing your day-to-day job. You have found a much more unique, headline-inducing, attention-grabbing way to do it. And I'm sure that through this, your entrepreneurial spirit will come through in a way, right? There will unlock more opportunities when you get the attention. I actually want to hit on this. This is a topic that we had several weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, about what is your why in entrepreneurship, and can you start integrating your why now? So a lot of people, they say, like for me, and I had to counter myself with this, and this was, I met Tim Ballard and I saw everything he was doing, and I realized, like, I want to fight human trafficking. I want to help combat, right, the atrocities of that. Now, do I have to wait till I'm a billionaire to get it done? No. So I I actually just want to say, man, that is a phenomenal thing that you're doing there in being able to say, hey, this is the fight that I want to fight, but I'm not waiting until I've accomplished every other goal in life. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. We always say, hey, what's the end goal, right? What are you going to do when you've made it? The problem is made it is such an ethereal phrase where shit, you'll never make it. And like by the time you realize you have made it, you could have fought the traffickers 20 years ago. You could have done the thing 20 years ago and still made a difference. So I want to hear, man, at 27, how do you have any advice for all these other folks who are maybe pushing off their why till later?
Well, that was my thing. Is like working my job. I was so obsessed with like just working, 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 and just like working out and just training. And like you said, like a lot of my relationships fell apart. And then I had to take a step back and really be like, wait, Lynn, what are you doing, man? Like let's figure out what's important to you. And what I really want everyone to be inspired by when they see me go out and accomplish this with the team that I put together is that you can do remarkable things as a regular guy working a 9 to 5 or a regular woman working their job. And you might not think you have all the time in the world, but if you really dream about something that you can get something done. And to everyone else it might be like there's no way this guy can do it, this is an impossible feat, and you really believe in yourself, you don't need millions of dollars. You don't need to be the guy who's a billionaire or anything like that. You just got to be you, and you got to believe in you, and you can get it done. And that's really what I want to show all these people, and that's why I'm keeping my job while I'm doing it.
Bro. Okay, see, and we got to highlight this for a minute because real talk, like for anyone listening to this in replay land, rewind the last 2 minutes, watch it, rewind it again, watch it again, rewind it one more time so you can really lock it in and understand what Andrew just said. That whole idea of, wait, first I need to be a millionaire, I need to be a billionaire. First I need to go and like pay off my mom's mortgage and do this and that, and then I can begin to help the world. Like that is, first off, in my opinion, right? Just an opinion, it's a loser's mentality. It's a mentality that keeps you where you are always. Instead of looking at what do I actually want to do and how can I begin to do it now? One thing that I can say from watching Andrew up close, and this was actually when we were in Running Man. Drew, I don't know if I told you this, that while we were in Running Man and we were out there at the event, and Running Man's an event for ultra marathon and entrepreneurs. So you got to meet some of the world's greatest athletes alongside some of the best businessmen and women on the planet. You're talking 7, 8, 9, 10-figure earners out there in the same environment as just people just rocking it through the dirt, just through the grass, just absolutely demolishing themselves for the sake of growth. And I watched, Drew, as you were just having casual conversation with people and you were sharing with them, this is what you were up to. This is the vision. This is the plan. This is what 2024 looks like. And I watched every person's eyes go like, how do I be a part of this? How do I connect with you? How do I support? And my mind, I was sitting back and I was taken aback. Like I was impressed with it. I was on board. Like the minute you told me, I was like, yo, this sounds awesome. I want to do this. But I'm also a weirdo, right? Like I say yes to a lot of weird stuff. And I'm watching all these other people want to get and be a part of the vision. And in that moment, Drew, you taught me, and I'm the mindset guy, you taught me, though, the power of truly having a large enough dream that incorporates more than just yourself, right? Like not just having the goal and the dream of, I want to go and buy myself a yacht. Like that's cool. I'm not going to tell anyone not to go buy themselves a yacht, but your dream is, hey, I want to go and do this epic thing to go and help more people. And I watched how, because you made it inclusive, that this dream was so big, this thing that has literally never been done. People have been throwing their support at you. And I don't know if we're able to even talk about some of the conversations that you've been having behind closed doors, some of the introductions that have been occurring as a result of this vision, this dream, and people seeing the conviction in your eyes. The fact that when you say you're running across America, it's already been completed. It's already done. Like when you and I talk about this, you already start telling me about what we're doing after the run is finished. And I'm like, yo, this dude is a nut. I love it. But
Can I comment on something real quick?
please,
So,
dude, like,
bro, one of the things that I wanted to get a take on is this, man. Is when people do absolutely, I'm gonna call it for what it is, man. It's insanity. Like the physical feat alone, coupled with the mentality and the mindset required to do it, coupled with the freaking grit, the sheer grit alone is insanity. I was actually interested to get on today and just see if I could sense an ounce, even a fraction of an ounce of doubt that you could do it. And then what's the best thing for me, man, is I'm like, did this shit already happen? Did he just finish it? Like, I know did the 100 mile. Like, did you finish the 3,100 miles already? And then I'm getting that feeling, and I love that Marlon said it, bro. It's already done. Time just hasn't caught up yet. I mean, that's really it. So one thing that I absolutely need to highlight, man, is this. Is Marlon, you mentioned it, right? Like people have the mission. I'm not here to crap on people's whys or their missions, but the reality is like the guy who says, "Hey, my mission is to live in a mansion, to have the yacht, to have all the Rolexes, to all that stuff," right? You know, there's a reason why people don't get behind those missions. You know what it is? I've actually found this out. It's why the military has this kind of aura to it, right? I mean, love them or hate them, be for it or be for another branch or not, the Marines crush it in their marketing. Why? Because they sell this idea of service. And one thing about Andrew's mission is his mission is not to serve himself.
mm,
His mission is I'm going to go make the biggest headline that running has potentially ever seen, but I'm not going to do it for me. I'm actually going to take those eyeballs and not take it to me. I'm literally just going to grab it and pass the baton to where it needs to go, and that's to raise awareness for human trafficking. See, the key I've realized personally over the last year and a half by looking at my mentors, people I look up to, is that you want to have, to Marlon's point, a vision so damn big and so amazing that people want to get into it. That vision cannot serve you. You will inevitably be served by it, right? I'm sure Andrew's going to get so many opportunities that come through this, but the reality is his vision is not designed to serve himself. It is designed to serve people who need to be served, and humbly to the greatest missions there are.
I love it. I got a question for you, Drew.
What's up, bro?
As you're gearing up for this, what's one of the more difficult challenges to putting this endeavor together, right? To put in pair to park together. Like, what are you realizing is like, okay, these are some of the maybe unforeseen obstacles, or maybe these are obstacles we anticipated, but still some of the tougher things to figure out right now.
I mean, well, we got the big one with figuring out the RV and going out and just getting the different sponsors that we want to brand together with, right? That's not just good for us, but it's good for both parties that align with our mission and what we're doing and everything like that. I think the hardest thing though, besides all that, because we'll figure everything out, right? Like that's just who we are. The biggest obstacle that is going to be the training with the work and with the lack of sleep, but we're already prepared for it. We already know that that's what's coming up and that's what we have to do. But to run 3,100 miles to do this thing, you got to train like a madman, and I'm ready for it. But that's the biggest thing: staying healthy during all that time. And I'm glad we got this great training session in this past weekend together, and we'll just keep that momentum going forward. And 83 days away before we head out, so it'll be good.
Yo, who else calls a 100-mile run through the forest, like up and down a mountain, a training session? Like, 30 hours of being awake and just moving in literally the winter of DC, a training session in Virginia, the winter of Virginia. Also, shout out to Carly Grundman for hooking it up with the RV coming in sub 2. Like we were taking over an RV sub 2 to make this happen as well. So that's absolutely fire, like how the community has come together. And so let's talk about that, though. You said the training is one of the more difficult parts because you've got the full-time W-2. So what does that actually look like for a person who's like, all right, well, what does it look like to train for a run across America? Like, what is, like, especially with the job, like literally, like what's your schedule? For example, like what's your schedule going to look like next Monday?
All right, so when Monday comes around, I'll be working pretty much 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., right? So let's say I get off, I get home, I'm asleep by 12:30, 1 o'clock. In the morning, we'll be getting up at 6 o'clock, heading out the house and doing a 3 mile ruck, right, with a 20-pound vest. So do a three mile ruck with a 20-pound vest, coming home, eating, then going for a 10-mile run, coming back, hitting the gym, hitting like a lift, eating again, heading to work. And that's the schedule all throughout the week. Pretty much that consistent, 10 miles a day for a few weeks, and then we'll up that to 11 miles, and then we up that to 12 miles, and we'll just continue to up that. We'll probably stop at 13 miles.
And let me throw this on top because you didn't mention a major piece about what you're doing, right? Because you mentioned that you have sponsors coming on board. And the only reason sponsors are coming on board is because you have consistently been nurturing your social media. In fact, this time, even a few months ago, your social media was maybe around like 2 or 3 thousand followers. You're now up to 7,000 followers with videos going viral weekly with 100,000 views, 150,000, 15,000, 20,000 views, 60,000 views. Like your content is being engaged with, it's being consistently put out. And that takes time, energy, and effort to be able to sit there and also create content around this. Like, how are you managing that because like I want to know the behind the scenes too of how you're managing that. Because again, like people are going to look at your social media and they're going to get their own idea of how you're making it all happen.
Yeah, I mean, I have a great team. Like we spoke about it earlier about going out for this 100-mile race. I got that 100-mile race done because of the team that I built around me. When it comes to social media, it's the same thing. Having Nick, if you don't follow Nick Villegas, like all my social media and everything that I do is because that guy puts all the time and effort that he does into me and into all the work that we do. And me, him, and then our other roommate Brandon, and we'll just go and we're just brainstorming ideas, man. Like it's literally like a think lab, and we're just going in there and we're just, what can we make? How can we make this? How can we make this entertaining for people and funny? And yeah, man. I mean, there's some days that we're going at it with each other. Like it's not all rainbows and butterflies. I promise you that. And we're just spitting ideas back and forth. And we're like, dude, your idea is stupid. No one's gonna like this video. But we just keep going and we, keep throwing things at the wall till something sticks. And yeah, man, that's really the game plan with all that stuff. But shout out to those guys, man. That's why I say your team is so important, and to be able to have great people around you. You guys wouldn't see the content that you do at the level that it's produced if it isn't for those guys, especially Nick.
Yo, I freaking love that. Shout out to Nick Blaze. Shout out to the homie coming in and really like because he puts in work. And I told him actually this week, and he was gracious enough to take me to the airport yesterday morning when I was leaving your place. And he and I were talking in the car. And I actually told him, I said, Nick, like I've been seeing such major improvements from you as a result of just like your move out to DC. And he was like, yo, honestly, man, he said it's been living with guys like Brandon and living with Drew and seeing how, at first it was hard for him, right? He said it was tough because he's like, these guys, like they get after it, they get work done. But he said, I consistently saw these dudes like just showing up and just putting in the work and not giving up on what it was they wanted. And it gave him the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to put in that work as well. And he's slowly stepping up his game. And your Instagram account is living proof of that, which is so cool. Like just seeing the progress. Like guys, like I'm telling you right now, if you're in the audience, you need to be following Drew. You need to be following Nick. Like you need to be following the RPM crew because very rarely do you ever get to catch a person on the come up and you are able to spot and say, yo, that person is going to be huge. Like that person's going to be doing amazing things. Like that's going to be a household name. It's kind of like if someone got to know Mark Zuckerberg while he was in college. Like this is the equivalent of getting to know the people that we bring onto these podcasts. These are the people that you want to make sure that you are attached to. You are tugging along. You are following that journey. And what's cool is following the journey and being able to support you allows people to support anti-human trafficking, right? It lets them actually put their attention and voice towards cause, which is just absolutely fire, bro. So I love the fact that you big up your team and that you never let people believe that it is a one-man show, that's a one-man band.
Definitely not, man. Definitely not.
I have a question, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Loud and clear, bro.
absolutely.
Amazing, amazing. You can't hear any background noises, right?
Nah, bro.
Perfect. Andrew, pleasure meeting you, brother. Thank you guys
Absolutely,
for
same.
letting me in. Sorry about being a little bit late, but Mr. Andrew, I have a question, man. From everything I'm hearing, you sound like one of the most consistent people we've had in the podcast, if not the most consistent person we had in the podcast. For someone like yourself that is so consistent and disciplined, what are some challenges that you face, and how do you deal with them?
I would say the biggest challenge that I had was like really aligning my goals with what I was doing, and then finding something that was bigger. Right now, I have challenges like everybody else. Like sometimes I don't want to wake up, I don't want to do the training session, but I have so many. When I tell somebody I'm gonna do something, my big one of my biggest fears in life is someone looking at me as like, oh, that guy's an imposter. Like you might not like me,
Mm,
and I really, if you don't like me, that's okay, but you're gonna not like the 100% Andrew Linder, right? So you can love me or hate me, but that's exactly who I am. And I have people around me that I really care about their opinion. So if I called Marlon uh, 11 weeks ago. I was like, hey, bro, I'm doing a 100-mile race. And it's not for like any like satisfaction from my end, but I know if I didn't run 100 miles last weekend, Marlon probably wouldn't talk to me. He'd be like,
mm,
like what type of guy? What do you mean, bro? You told me you were gonna do something and you didn't do it. So if I tell you I'm gonna do something that really does mean a lot to me, and with this and with like a project that's this big, I really don't give my feelings. I have bad days, but I don't really give like my pain and stuff voices. I might have bad moments, but I don't really let those voices come out. And Marlon kind of saw a little bit about that this weekend, but I won't give it a voice. I won't give it a voice, and I just like want to keep going. But when you have a vision that's this big and a project that's going to help so many more people, I look at it as very selfish of myself to kind of just keep laying in bed and feel sorry for myself. But there are days, man, where I don't want to do stuff. Trust me.
mm.
Yo, Alejandro, to add to that, by the way, yeah, Randy, we do got David Goggins up here right now. That's the white David Goggins. Um, but yo, real talk, this weekend while we were running on our last lap, on the last 20, really the last 6 miles of this, I mean, I was looking at a man who had just subjected his body to literal hell. I mean, imagine being 94 miles into a race. It's you ran through the pouring rain. It's wintertime. You're hungry. You're sleep deprived. It is like we were literally running through the dark at one point. Headlamps turned off. Like things that could go wrong were going wrong. It had a coming from a previous injury that hadn't yet fully had time to heal. Starting the race with the injury, and whenever I checked in with this guy and said, "Yo, how you feeling?" I never once heard this hurts, that hurts, I can't do it. Right? I just heard, ah, all right, cool. That's all I need. You're breathing. That means we can keep going, right? Or all right, let's get home, right? Like let's get home. And the
Let's get
minute I
home.
told Drew, I was like, "Yo, run!" Like he just run. He would run. He would just put his body through it, and he never gave his pain a voice. He never gave any sort form of weakness a voice. Like there was no point in 100 miles where I heard him say, "Yo, man, my hamstrings hurt, my quads hurt, my knees hurt, my ankles hurt." Like nothing. And that's so important because too often we think we're giving information, right? Like it's going to be helpful if I share with you that, hey, this is what's hurting, this is what's going wrong. But all we're doing is we're talking ourselves down. We're slicing ourselves down with our own tongue, right? Like the sword is the tongue, and we're just chopping ourselves down with it instead of building ourselves up. So I
Mm.
appreciated seeing you at your lowest point. Hold on to that strength.
Amazing.
It was
That
fire.
was a tough one, bro. That was a tough one. Yeah.
What are some Andrew? What are some big goals do you plan ahead of for yourself? Like, do you have any more bigger goals that you just never done before and you know it's going to be difficult? Do you set plans like that, or you kind of just find them along the way?
Yeah, for 2024, we have the Run Across America, which will be amazing to do for amazing cause. And then after that, I have on the schedule, we're going to go ahead and then do the Chicago Marathon and go run sub 250 for that one. That'll be the goal, to run sub 2 hours and 50 minutes for that. And then right now, looking to end the year hiking Mount Kilimanjaro in 2024. So do those things, and then we'll crush some more like 100 mile races. I might go back for the Loop de Looper, which was a 12-hour race I did this past summer, and I ended up finishing in third. So I have some unfinished business to do out there that we might have to bang out in August. So yeah, man. I mean, I have a ton more races that are definitely on the list to do, and I'm really looking forward to doing them. I really want to take the time to go ahead and do this Pier to Park, this run across America, do it for an amazing cause, and then I'll be selfish a little bit and do some of the races that I want to do.
That's beautiful, man. And also, last question from me is, the type of mindset you have, Andrew, is really foreign in this generation. Like, a lot of people just don't think like that. We want everything to be easy. And my question to you is, who are your inspiration, man? Like, who are you looking up to tell yourself it's okay to be this way? Other than yourself, because you feel after you do all these hard things, you start to build this discipline, you feel this confidence, etc. But who are the inspiration in your ear? Like, okay, he's doing it, I can do it as well.
Well, I would say when you look at this type of scale, right, you have the guys like Goggins and stuff like that kind of opened my eyes that these things are possible. But it's my parents, man. I get a little emotional talking about it, but but like my dad's my hero, and that guy, he's never called out of work sick,
Wow.
and he just like showed me work ethic, and at a super young age, like going and doing jobs with him, and constantly like working, and just like making work fun for me, right? Just to show me like, hey man, this is how you're supposed to do things. This is how you're supposed to get stuff done. And
Wow.
same thing with my mom, working 2 jobs for as long as she did, up until last year. And those two, man, that's why I like, the long hours, and the early mornings, and the 32 hours through the forest, that stuff, they sacrificed way more than what I'm doing. So I would say those guys that we all see, like the Gogginses and the Cameron Hayneses, that do these crazy stuff, they definitely open my eyes to it. But I wouldn't even be, a tiny pie in this piece, if it wasn't for my parents.
Beautiful.
Bro,
That's
I,
amazing.
I have this really, it's something that I just kind of saw in you, and it's something that I've been noticing. I'm really big on pattern recognition, and I think that one of the greatest skill sets anyone can actually have or can work on is understanding the patterns in people that you look up to. And one thing that I'm starting to realize with people that I look up to is one core trait. So I want to ask you this question. You're doing all these phenomenal things. I mean, like, dude, the fact is, the 100 miles is the warm up, right? That's kind of the crazy thing. The 100 miles is the warm up. That in and of itself is a headline, right? The Pier to Park is a headline. Are you? And it's okay if you maybe you don't even know yet. Are you more in love with the process or the end result? Because you're chasing these headlines, and the headlines are unfathomable. But the process that you're doing day in and day out is also equally, in my opinion, unfathomable. So, which do you love more?
For the impact, the end is the best, right? But for me, being selfish, it's all about the process. Um, if I didn't have to suffer through all those days where I didn't want to do the training, and if I didn't have to eat all the meals, if I didn't have to give up all the nights of going out and hanging out with people that I wanted to go hang out with, or missing the parties and all that stuff, I wouldn't make the win for me that great. So for me, selfishly, it's all about the process. But the actual thing and actually doing it is great for everybody else to see.
Yo, that's what I freaking love. Yo, you know what's crazy? Because some people are like, if anyone's like me, I would listen to a guy like that and be like, "Yeah, right, man. It's not about the process." But when I watched Drew when we were at Whiskey Row, and this dude like came in such like a killer pace and killer time, and he just like they wanted to like people wanted to like kind of get around him and talk to him about it, and he was just like, "No, like I didn't come here for that." Like for him, it was like the race was done. He was already planning and mapping out like the next work that needed to be done. And I watched it happen in real time. And like that was my introduction to Andrew Linder. I was like, yeah, this is a dude that is just about this life. Right. And like it's so interesting because you also do such a good job at capturing it and sharing it and inspiring people through the social media with your team, with Nick, with Brandon, with the guys going out there and really creating and storytelling and narrating this journey. But like, dude, I freaking love it. Like, I just guys, this is you're looking at my favorite people on the screen right now. So like, I feel like a kid in a chocolate factory with his best friends right now. Like, these are my favorite humans on a screen right now. This has never happened ever.
I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you. So before we let you out of here, before we gotta start wrapping things up, I put up on the link here, like on the screen, pairtopark.com. I want to know what's the best way for people to support, for people to follow, for people to tag along, for people to be a part of this, because there's so much that needs to like that's going to be happening that they can be a part of. But like, what's the best way if anyone has any form of interest? Is am I correct in sending them to pairtopark.com? Like, because I'm
Yeah,
that's why I've been sending people.
absolutely. So peertopark.com, you go on there, you'll see the countdown, how many days we have until we start off, till we launch from Santa Monica Pier. Put in your email there, and you'll be getting live updates on different things that we have going on and just everything that we're doing and planning as the event starts. Then also you'll be getting updates during the journey as well. Right now, also following me on social media is always great. Right now, guys, I'm taking a 72-hour fast from social media, so I'll be back on Thursday night. But after these events, when it's you go do 100 miles and you go through this journey, emotionally, mentally, and physically, I was at zero, guys. And for me, just fasting from food, fasting from social media, and just really centering myself before we get back into everything again. And I just can go hit everything at full force. So yeah, guys, you follow me on social media. All those updates will be on there. You'll see me back active there on Thursday all the way through, and we'll have some fun.
I love it. Yo, Andrew, appreciate you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you connect with this guy. Like, there are a few people that are the real deal. Andrew Linder is absolutely one of them. We wouldn't bring anyone on here that wasn't worth something valuable to the world. So, Drew, thank you so much for spending your time here with us tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you all you guys for having me on here. Thank you for all you guys watching. Really appreciate it.
Love it, bro. So, guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to wrap this episode up. Alejandro, Sam, dude, appreciate you guys for making it here no matter what. I know, Sam, you had some challenges. Alejandro, you're like traveling right now. You're in your back cave. We don't even know where you're at, Alejandro. People are like, dang, they said Alejandro plugs in from literally anywhere. Um, but you guys want to say anything to these people before we sign out? We already got them 5 minutes over the hour. But I just want to say to you guys, I appreciate you guys for showing up so dang consistently every single week. Like, seriously, it means the world to me to know that I can rely on the men, the brothers in my life.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you, man. Always a pleasure to be here. This podcast mean a lot to me. This is something that we always talk about. Like as far as hang out together. I mean, we all have our own chaos going through the week. We have our own thing going on. Marlon, you got your business. Sam, you got your business. We're all killing it, and for us to just take a deep breath and come back and sit together on this podcast is the most amazing thing, man. Like, I almost made it like literally on time, but freaking security guard started talking about unpacking laptops and this. I'm like, God, I almost made it on time. So I will never miss this for anything, bro. You know, I will always throw for you guys.
Let's go. So, guys, do the thing. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Be sure to be following Andrew Linder on IG. Make sure you follow Nick Vlay. If you're watching this in the replay, we'll have their links down below. And make sure you go and drop that email for Pay to Park for the updates. And if you want to be a part of it, if you want to know how you can help, if you have a charity that you want to be able to figure out how you can just simply join the cause or even spread awareness, go ahead and just DM Andrew or Nick. I will bug them to make sure that they respond to every last DM that comes through. So, guys, until next week, we hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll see.